Yeah.
facetious.
No, seriously. Seriously.
Okay, good.
We are in Shop Talk with Amber.
Hi, y'all.
Amber, welcome to Shop Talk.
Thanks for having me, David.
No, I appreciate you coming in. I know that you and I have tried multiple times to schedule this.
We have.
So I'm glad that you're here in lovely Rolling Meadows.
Made it happen.
Right on, right
I
on.
took out my passport to get it stamped to come
Good.
to Rolling Meadows.
No, the effort is appreciated.
My pleasure.
So as I mentioned to you before, I mean, our format's pretty informal. I know that you're making some changes and in some transition right now, so
Yes.
we definitely want to touch on all that.
Okay.
First question I have for my friend Amber is, let's talk about kind of where you've been.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about where you're at now and maybe where you're going, because I know that you do a lot of different things.
Yes.
You've always worn a lot of different hats.
Yes.
You're very prominent in the events
Yes.
circuit
Yes, I am.
of commercial real estate.
Guilty.
And you do volunteer a lot of your time. You've
Yes.
very graciously helped my broker hockey event out. You've
Which
always
is
helped
a
out.
great event.
You've always helped out the golf outings and things like that. So let's talk about, you've
Yes.
been in commercial real estate in the industry for 17 years.
Yes. That makes me feel old.
Nobody will count the years.
They're not going to go
Trust
backwards.
me. No,
Okay, you're doing it in your head right
well,
now.
we'll just do a big happy birthday for you in October.
Okay, that's
Big
fair.
happy birthday. So talk
Okay,
a
that's
little
fair.
bit about some of the experiences you've had coming through your career.
Okay, so I put myself through school at Northern Illinois. Go
Nice.
Huskies!
Okay.
And when I was there, I was a corporate communications major and working 2 jobs and partying like a rock star. Still graduated with full honors.
Congratulations.
So no judgment out there. And I thought, I was very idealistic from a super small town and thought I would go to Chicago and be an advertising executive.
Where are you from?
I am from a super small town near the Quad Cities called Andover.
I do know Andover.
No, you do not know Andover.
I went to Western Illinois.
Oh my God, you know Andover? Okay. Yeah, Macomb was in our high school district. So
If you would have said a really boom town like Good Hope,
okay, I don't know Good Hope.
that's even smaller than Andover.
Okay, so Andover, very Swedish,
Yeah,
and very small. The sign says population 600, but that's a lie.
Yeah.
I'm no longer there, so probably like 400 and something.
Nice.
So went to Northern and thought, small town girl, I'm going to go be an advertising executive in Chicago. I thought I was living the dream. And then out of college, I worked for a B2B newspaper doing advertising sales for a year. And one of my clients was a crane rental company. And Royal Crane, hi, John. And he said, I'm so cheap. If you can sell me advertising, then you can rent cranes and heavy equipment. And I mean, this was in 2002. And I said, well, if you pay me $40,000 and, train me, then I'll come work for you. And so he's like, done deal.
Opportunity.
Yeah. And so my first 7 years in the construction and the industry was renting heavy equipment. So it was kind of like Gidget goes to Chicago. This was before the days where you could look up directions on your phone. And so I had to learn Chicago, so good old Madison and State. So
Yeah.
I learned the grid. I was living in the city. I was actually doing estimating and sales for him. So I was that girl who would pull up on a job site, get my hard hat, my work boots, my tape measure, and climbing up ladders and sizing up cranes on construction projects. And so he sent me everywhere from up to Wisconsin to Inglewood. I mean, I went everywhere. I went to every networking event, bid openings, political events, construction associations.
In terms of what that was, like, what was the learning curve for that?
It was baptism by fire.
Wow. Wow.
So he had said he was going to train me, and there would be this elaborate process, David. No. And so these crane operators almost became like big brothers and uncle figures for me, because I mean, I didn't know what in the hell I was doing. And so little by little you learn. And when you're sizing up cranes, it's basic geometry. And so I figured it out and I networked a ton. And that was when I appreciated how to build a network and the importance of that, because you never know where your next project, your next deal, your next lead is going to come from.
Yeah, so that was your foray into the commercial real estate industry in Chicago.
Absolutely.
How long did it take you into that process to realize that the industry is a just networking monster?
About a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to everything. So, the owner, you have a 22-year-old, young blonde girl. He's going to send you to everything to represent the company. And so that's when I learned that no matter what company you're working for, when you're in a business development or a sales or a marketing role, you become an ambassador for that company. So you become the face of that company. And just the importance of your network and being open to meeting with anybody and everybody.
Yes.
So it was a great learning experience, and I wouldn't change it.
Well, it gave you the opportunity to see everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
From all sides of it, because on the equipment side of things, I could work directly with a general contractor. I could work with property managers / building engineers, the mechanical contractors, steel carpenters. I mean, you name it, and any sort of trade contractor from the owner all the way down could be renting a piece of heavy equipment.
So were you were strictly in a sales role there?
Sales and marketing, because their marketing was a mess. So we overhauled the website and the brochures and all of that good stuff.
Did you take charge and do all that too?
Of course.
Oh, right on.
Well, with the small companies, that's what you have to do. You kind of have to wear a lot of hats.
True.
And got him more involved. He's a minority-owned company, and so got him more involved with the, the minority business development agencies, and started doing some more PR for him, and got him some press exposure, and all the good stuff that falls within that kind of marketing and communication and sales capacity.
So you went from one crane company to another crane company.
Yes, I got stolen away.
Hey now. That's how it works when you make an impact, right? That's how it works.
Well, actually, it started off kind of rocky because John, who owns Royal Crane, had sent me down to Springfield to speak on a panel about equipment and renting equipment, buying equipment, things of that nature. So when I was down there, I met Donna Stevenson, who owns Stevenson Crane. And so we're sitting on this panel. She's a competitor, and, she's been doing things for a while in a very well-known company. And there was a question that was asked, and I responded on this panel. And she kind of came at me.
Really?
She was kind of catty and questioned something that I said. But I knew what I was talking about. And so I gave it right back to her. And then she just kind of leaned back in her chair and nodded her head. And then later on in the ladies' room, we were complimenting each other's shoes.
Oh, boy.
And that's where the friendship happens.
Okay.
And I ended up getting hired over martinis a few months later. So
and was that
the best way to get hired?
Was that strictly a marketing role then?
That was marketing, but I still was doing some sales for them. That was kind of more internal sales, which is important but a little bit boring.
Yeah.
But it was a great chance to do more marketing and more PR, because when I was there, they had purchased a few pieces of equipment, some larger crawler cranes that truly had a national there's a national need for them. So in this market at that time, there weren't a lot of people that had crawler cranes.
Right.
And so I was able to coordinate these national trade shows and set up a Google AdWords account and, overhaul some of the marketing just so people understood that, Stevenson was not just in the Chicagoland market, but truly could serve clients across the country.
Right.
So that was, it was fun to be able to do something like that and just kind of own it.
Yeah.
As my own kind of marketing baby.
So your forte is marketing.
Yeah.
But you're also
I'm a marketing nerd.
Well, but you're also a bit of a salesperson and business development person and kind of that end of the business. And you've been mostly in the equipment and
So it's been a mix. So for the past handful of years, I have helped a lot of typically smaller firms who don't always have the resources to afford someone like us, a business development and a marketing professional full time.
right. So now you're talking about the Andover Group.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. So you
Yes.
transitioned from, being on the sales side in the equipment realm, and some time with a construction group as well.
Mhm.
Now you're talking about the Andover Group, which is a
Yes.
consulting group
Yes.
that you're a part of.
Yes.
Okay, so talk about the Andover Group and what you guys do.
Okay. So the Andover Group, again, my little small town values, this big city vision. So the Andover Group is really just the name that I give my consulting services.
Got it?
And so I provide sales, marketing, and PR support to firms within the built environment. And so when we talk the built environment, we mean, architecture, engineering, construction. So that can look a lot of ways. I can work for somebody full time or go on a retainer or do contract to contract basis. So it can look a lot of ways, but essentially it's smaller firms that need help building their brand, their name recognition in the industry, and then positioning them so there's more viable project opportunities coming in.
And the Andover Group is how many employees?
One.
Ah, nice.
Well, she's a pretty great one. She's
There
a
you
great
go.
boss too.
Yeah, right?
Great boss.
Right. The communication is pretty seamless.
Oh, seamless.
Yeah,
Yes,
good.
never been better. So I it's fun to be able to do that. And right now, there's more than 2/3 of B2B companies outsource some portion of their marketing services.
Okay.
So it's common and it's becoming more and more common. But yeah, so anybody within the industry, it's fun for me to partner with these firms and figure out how I can help them.
Right.
So how do you look in the marketplace now? Like, what is your brand? And a lot of these owners look at you and think, what do you mean, my brand?
Right.
Here's my logo.
Yeah.
And it's so much more than that. The brand is how other people feel about your company and what they think about your company. And so one thing that I think that you guys do really well at LCI is from the basics of a brand standpoint, your logo and a very bold color. And so even when I was pulling into the parking lot today, I was like, how am I going to find their suite? And then all of a sudden I see the bright orange letters.
Yeah.
So I just associate that with you, your orange golf balls, and it's just and everywhere you're reinforcing that. And so when I think of that color, I think of Langehaumer, and that's a positive thing.
The logo and the LCI logo, it hasn't changed since I've been here, going on 6 years now. Hasn't changed. The corporate color being orange came to be because Jeff's wife's favorite color is orange.
Smart man.
Right. Well, it's a great color.
It is.
The LCI logo over the last few years, I think, has become, as we continue to try to figure out who we are. Like you talk about, the process of branding and understanding what you do, right?
It's a process.
Right. So
Correct.
we went through this process over the last 18 months or maybe 2 years, and we're still in that process with, a outside consultant who specializes in, but he specializes more in human behavior than he does in like hardcore branding.
Okay.
And the reason why that we engaged him was we wanted to talk about how do we attract and retain top talent. Project managers, project manager assistants, field superintendents, business development people, whatever it happens to be. And through that process, some of the questions that he asked us about us as a company is, who are you and what's your special sauce, right?
Yes.
So I'm sure that that's something that you deal with a lot, because I think we were probably posed with the same question, like, well, who is Langehaumer?
We're a general contractor serving these markets for this many years.
Yeah,
you say the same thing.
That's your elevator speech.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the majority of people, when you tell them you're a general contractor, you build things, they automatically think, oh, okay, well, when I want my kitchen redone, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, I
Not
wouldn't.
so much.
Right. But at the root of what it is, building things is what we do.
So I love the fact that you hired this consultant focused on people and hiring the right people, because so much of when a person decides to go work for a company, especially the M word, the millennials, they want to know, like, what is your brand and also what your social impact is.
Yeah.
So much, okay, yes, you need to pay me and you need to have benefits and you need to have a good company culture. Can I say asshole? I have a no asshole policy. I don't like to work with them or for them. So you want to be part of a good team. But so much now in this competitive job market, so you bring in this consultant and it's like, well, why does somebody want to come work for you?
Exactly.
And so you might be a great general contractor, but are you treating your people great? Do you have a social mission? And that's another thing that you guys are so strong. You're strong in this market, in the AEC world, and the commercial real estate is so philanthropic, and we network at these amazing events. And when I think about you guys, I think about broker hockey. I'm presenting a big check to Misericordia, and you have a golf outing coming up in September.
That is correct.
September what?
26th.
Okay, September 26th.
Right? I better know
is that right? You should know.
I better know that date here.
I just put the
September 26th.
Okay, I just put the host on the spot.
Also benefiting Misericordia.
Yeah. And so I think that becomes part of your brand as well.
Absolutely.
That you have this philanthropic mindset and this impact, and it's really important when it comes to hiring and retaining talent, and kind of a differentiator, because there are so many general contractors out there.
Yeah.
So they're all going to tell you the same thing. Oh, we're a small enough company, but we can operate like a big firm, and we're on time and on budget, and you can tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
But what's important, and the most important thing about your brand, is that you're consistent, that you're genuine, and you're good guys, you're doing good things.
Yeah.
And so I think, to me, that's the most important part. Like, we like our strong colors and our bold logo and a website that's pretty decent, and we go to the networking events, but when it comes down to that brand and that authenticity, like, you're good people and you're doing good things.
I think we look at it too as, I know I certainly do, and I've had this conversation with Jeff and in-house here with Lori, our other business development person, is how do we stay relevant? Now that the brand is out there, and we've engaged in the Cornets and the NAOPs and the crews of the world, and we sponsor events, and we try to do as much as we can, or as much as budgetary things will allow for, to be seen, right?
Yes.
How do we consistently stay in front of people? I mean, doing the podcast, this is the exact reason why we do this.
This is a great way, and it's creative, and there are not a lot. I don't know any other general contracting firms that are doing this.
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure that, there will be others.
Hey, imitation is flattery.
It is.
Come on in and try to do what we're doing. That's fine.
It is. The whole reason we did it in this format was because we wanted to make sure that people were consuming information the way that we're putting it out, right? So, you can do email blasts, and you can do your typical, blanket type stuff. But for this, it's one of those things where, if we can do them regularly and have great people come in and talk about what they do and how it's relevant to commercial real estate.
Yes.
I'm a podcast guy. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and that's how I choose to consume my information.
Yes.
So that's why we decided to start putting it out that way.
So that's a good way to put it. Podcast is how you choose to kind of absorb information that's relevant to you.
100%.
And so what you're doing is, I always like to say, it's almost like when you're attacking a project opportunity. Like, I want to attack it from all levels. So I ideally would love to know who the owner or the developer is, and the architect, and the broker, depending on if this is a pursuit for a general contractor or a trade contractor or even an architect. So however you can attack from all angles. And so so the same way when you're out hunting for work, I think the same thing about, kind of reinforcing your brand. And so you have your podcast, you're sponsoring events, you are tying yourself to a great local charity and doing events like that. You have your very bold color, you have your Langehaumer orange golf balls, and then in terms of your business development pursuits, you are getting in those different touches and you're attacking people from all angles.
Yeah.
LinkedIn. So once this lovely podcast goes live, then you'll post that on LinkedIn, which is an amazing resource, and it's free. And you might have an email distribution list where this could be relevant. You could have some smaller developer clients out there and say, hey, we talked about building a brand and different ways to reinforce that. This is something that I thought of you. And so any way that you can get those touches in, I think is the key.
Well, that's why I'm always asking myself is, how are we staying relevant in the marketplace?
Top of mind.
We always try to, shamelessly self-promote the work that we do and the types of work that we do, and projects that are, kicking off or in mid-project or wrapping up projects, and take pretty pictures and all that. But I think that there's so much more to what LCI is, and the impact I think that we want to make as a company. We started Langehaumer Charities specifically to try to impact, a group of families and, their kids as they're, taking on the challenges that they have with Misericordia.
Yes.
It's been a phenomenal partnership for us.
Yes.
Can't say enough good things about Ms. Shout out to Ms.
Hey, hashtag Misericordia.
So, but I am always asking myself that question, in all of the, here at LCI, all the hats that that everybody wears. I'm wearing my BD hat. I'm wearing a marketing hat. I'm wearing a sales hat. I'm wearing a relationship hat. Is the biggest one I probably wear.
Yes.
Is how do you stay relevant doing what you're doing? And I guess my question to you, being the expert.
The resident expert between the two of us.
What are some of the trends that you're seeing in companies and what they're doing to help promote their brand?
So again, LinkedIn is huge. I have more and more small companies that have reached out to me and asked to write their LinkedIn posts for them. And so providing that type of content, which is good.
Yeah.
And then in this industry, we can never it's all about relationships, and it's never going to change, and it's just the nature of the beast in Chicago. And so any way that you can creatively build those relationships, we're all doing it. It's just who's doing it better. And so staying active. And so sponsoring certain events. There's one company that I had partnered with, and I said, you know what? We need to get in front of more property managers. And so I was able to get the list of the suburban BOMA property managers. And I partnered with a handful of other firms. And there was an architecture firm. I was representing a general contractor. There was a weatherproofing, waterproofing company, furniture rental, disaster recovery. And so we said, you know what, we'll just do a series of happy hours. We'll split the costs and we'll see who comes out. You just never know. Right. And so we're putting our logo. I mean, it took me all of 10 minutes to design just a cute little basic PDF, JPEG that I was able to email out to this list. And no matter what, whether people are coming or not, they still see your email and they still see your logo.
Right.
And so any way that you can reinforce that logo, especially for the smaller companies that don't have the brand recognition or don't have $1 million marketing budget, which I'm assuming LCI is not spending $1 million on their marketing and promotions now.
So you mentioned LinkedIn, and that's, social media, right? So across all platforms, social media.
Yes.
You can create, this persona of being
bigger than you
better,
are.
faster, stronger.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Just by continually putting content out there.
Yes.
I kind of look at it, and we look at it here as, yes, we could do that. Like I could bombard social media every single day
Yes.
with different things.
Yes.
But we want to bombard social media with
relevant content, and that is the key. And also, so some people might disagree with me here, but in the B2B arena, which we're in, I still think that LinkedIn, for companies that I've been partnering with and for an LCI, that LinkedIn is the best resource. I just don't find Facebook to be a good resource for a B2B exposure.
I don't disagree, but I don't think you can leave it out. Because it's still I think it's still a relevant
it's still a medium.
Social media platform.
It's still a medium. I get that.
Your number one is for our industry is gonna be LinkedIn. Hands down gonna be LinkedIn. But I don't think you can discount Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and whatever else happens to be out there.
I think Twitter is more relevant and would be better for small business than what Facebook would be. Yeah. Maybe I'm just anti-Facebook. Yeah. Sorry, Zuckerberg.
No, and that's okay.
Sorry.
I don't know that Facebook as a platform for, companies
for you guys.
Well, I don't know that I don't think it's the best, but I don't think that you can leave it out.
Yeah. But it's still there, and it's still free.
Yeah, you just can't leave it out.
Yeah, it's still free. So, but when it comes to working and partnering with some of these firms who, are on a limited budget, if you're going to pick a medium, typically it's LinkedIn where they want to focus on. And then from there, let's be strategic on what construction or real estate associations we want to engage with.
Right.
And the charitable events that we want to sponsor or at least have a presence at.
Yep.
And it's one thing after another, but
yeah. Well, it's no longer a thing where you can hey, we're going to put a print ad together and put that in the Illinois Real Estate Journal or BizNow or whatever it happens to be, right? It's got to be more. There has to be more legs to the stool.
Absolutely.
There has to be.
And like you said when you were talking about the consumption of information, we're all in overload. I mean, by the time we wrap up this session today, you're going to go back to your laptop and you're going to have all these emails, and then you're going to have from your close industry associates or peers, if they just text you. I did that last night. Are we still on for today?
They do.
So there's this overload of information coming at you, and so that's why when you talk about being relative and being consistent and giving a relevant message, and there's it takes time to come up with that. When people will make comments like, "Oh, your LinkedIn posts are great." Thank you so much. Yeah. But I'm also a communications major, and it takes time. And you're reading articles and deciding what I think would have value to my network, because we all want to try to add that value without annoying you. Yeah. So we want to be pleasantly persistent, and we want to be there, and we want that top of mind awareness without you saying, oh my God, David sent me another email.
Right.
He's texting me again.
Right.
And so it's finding that right balance. And you've been doing this long enough. You know the balance.
Longer than you.
Longer than me. So you know how it is. You get that vibe from, a potential client. If I think I sent them one too many emails, I'm going to play it cool.
I've always said, you have your no a-hole rule.
Yes.
I think we all have something similar to that.
Yes.
And the biggest hat that I wear here at LCI is in the relationship side of our business.
Yes.
It's building relationships, keeping existing relationships,
nurturing the ones you have. It's cheaper to keep them.
growing, right?
Yes.
And the way you do that is, by really kind of communicating.
Yes.
Up front, building relationships early and building them often. Everything that you probably ever heard about, from a professional friend maker.
Yes.
A lot of us are.
Yes.
A lot of us are. And it becomes a matter of, how many of those people can you really, really be in in front of on a regular basis. I mean, when it comes to, chasing business opportunities, which at the core of what our business development efforts are,
Yes.
it is about bringing work in.
Bringing in viable project opportunities.
Absolutely.
Not junk. Not, oh, I read this in the paper. Too late.
Yeah.
It's that get in early. We have a real shot at this because we have relationships with this
exactly
broker, with this architect, with this owner, with this property manager. And so I think, David, like the important thing is finding that balance and of being in front of people, being creative. And so you talk about, hosting these happy hour events and sending out a cute invitation. And then when you are partnering with other firms, you're all getting exposure, and then you split the cost among those firms. So it becomes a good cost-effective way to just get that little bit of exposure. And I have a great story. When I'd sent out the first one, and if I'm doing the work to create this flyer and I'm doing the coordination work, then I'm going to be the person who sends out the email.
Sure. Yeah.
So again, I'm getting my own personal brand out there and then the company's name. And so a property manager sends a response, never met him in my life. And he said, well, unfortunately, I can't attend your happy hour event, but I have a project. Do you want to bid it?
Yeah, of course.
And I said, why, yes, I would like to bid your project. Thank you, Roger. Lovely guy.
The end result for all of us is basically the same.
Yes,
right?
Always. No matter what part of the cycle you're selling on or to.
You're chasing new clients all the time.
Yes.
What's your threshold for the number of clients that you carry at any one time?
That is a good question. So because of the type of services that I can do, it varies. So anywhere from one, I could just be dedicated to one firm, or I could handle up to 6 to 7. It might just be providing LinkedIn content for them. It might be creating their sales and marketing plan and then helping them execute the plan. So it just depends. It could be more of here's some press releases we want you to kind of draft up for us for new hires. So I would say anywhere from like 1 to 6 or 7.
1 to 6 or 7.
Yeah, because I can work give all of me to one company.
Sure.
I can absolutely do that, and I've done that. Or
that would be a company who is really in need of
a full-time business development and marketing professional, an ambassador.
Well, so let's say you're carrying 5 at one time. I mean, you're always looking for the next 5.
Yes.
Always.
Yes, always.
Yeah.
And that's one of the struggles, kind of doing consulting and doing your own thing, because you talk about wearing a lot of hats. So it's already enough as a business development professional because we have the sales capacity and the marketing and just kind of that overall maintaining existing relationships, out hunting for more, doing it in a genuine way, which is so important because we know those creepy people out there like you. We want to do it the right way and we want to be genuine in our pursuit. And so it's hard to kind of manage that whole entire process and managing the clients, but like I said, I'm a pretty good boss to myself.
Yeah,
so.
Right. Yeah, right.
So we make it work. But
So what I guess across the board, I would ask you for more of a blanket type of a statement on this.
Okay.
What is like the single biggest thing that you feel like based on what you're hearing that companies need from a marketing or branding standpoint?
The firms that I have been helping need more exposure in the marketplace.
Presence.
Yes, more presence.
Yeah.
And so you can have a smaller firm that doesn't have a David and they're a great general contractor or they're a great mechanical, electrical.
They're
a great architecture firm.
They do good work.
Yeah. But the owner has always been, maybe a doer seller. And that can be challenging.
Yes.
And so they're doing too much and they there's this level of frustration when they reach out to me.
Inevitably, something gets lost.
Something gets lost. Something gets pushed to the side. Something gets neglected.
Yeah.
And so there's this frustration that we do really great work, but nobody knows who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's typically when a firm will come to me and I can help. Okay, well, let's create your marketing and business development strategy. Let's create your plan.
Yeah.
Because, Jeff and all these folks, when they started their business, they had a business plan, or if they've had to go to the bank to get a line of credit, of course they have their business plan.
Yeah.
But most people, in all honesty, don't touch it. They create it and then it's never touched again.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, let's take a look at your marketing and BD plan. And then, these companies look at me like I'm crazy.
Right. Well, but it's almost like you're speaking in a new language to them.
Yes.
Because you have to really look and analyze your business a little bit and say,
absolutely.
Wow, I can't believe that I'm not posting things every few days on social media.
Yes.
Oh, you know what? But I have a business to run.
Exactly.
I can't.
I have
take the time to do
invoicing and
that.
I'm collecting money, or I have client meetings.
Of course.
And so that's one of the biggest challenges. But so often these smaller firms get caught up in the day-to-day grind, and you have these blinders on. And so when I can sit down with them and say, okay, well, who are your clients now? And that's typically how I start. So who are your clients now? So you kind of tell me who your clients are, and then I get a feel for what market those are in. So you guys are strong in the TI market. Okay, wonderful. So you really only have 5 or 6 clients. Like, how can we go beyond this? Like,
Sure.
who are your old clients? How can we try to bring them back on board? Relationships change, positions change. And so then kind of building that plan.
Yeah.
What do you think you do better than other GCs that are in that space, or other contractors that are doing the same thing?
You're helping them to find their secret sauce.
Yeah, you got to find your secret sauce.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to want a Big Mac when I leave here. Thanks, David.
What separates you and what makes you better?
What makes you better? And you have to hear that from, I cannot be the one to just come up with that. I can't tell you that.
Well,
you're
an objective set of eyes.
Yes.
Everybody else in-house cannot be objective. Everybody is subjective. Even the owner of the company is subjective.
Always. It's their baby.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even though
baby.
You may sit down and have a moment of clarity and try to be objective, but bringing in someone from the outside to really kind of analyze what you do and who you are makes perfect sense.
And ask you the questions that you don't have the time to answer on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Like, who do you want to focus on? What are you good at? What do you really have the time for? Are you going to have project managers and estimators kind of serving as doer sellers as well and supporting this position? What are your plans for growth? You've been growing organically for 25 years.
Right.
The market is strong. Now you want to capture market share. Well, how are we going to do that when you guys are doing the same thing you've been doing for the past 2 or 3 decades?
Yeah.
And so then it makes, kind of these owners sit back and take pause. Well, what can we do differently?
Sure. I think a lot of companies, and I will speak directly about LCI, we have always been kind of open to, like, how do we get this out and how do we do this?
Great.
And what's like kind of the new and latest and greatest type of trend stuff that we can maybe do. I feel that we have a fairly good foothold in the marketplace. When I first started, it was Jeff and, a project manager, basically. And just through conversations with Jeff and talking about LCI and where they were and where they wanted to go, when I came here, of course, all the relationships that I've built, they all came with.
They come with you.
So now, moving forward, now we have, 5 or 6 project managers, and we have project manager assistants and other business development people and field supers. And
you built a team.
Well, everybody I think now consistently is out always kind of looking for work, whether by default or whether by design. Yeah, well,
banging the hammer, because everybody within your firm, from the first person when I walk in the door, is a brand ambassador.
Of course. Yeah.
And so that's what you're talking about. Now you just have your own. You have a larger team that can go out and spread the LCI message. So
I guess I'm always asking myself, how if we're a, $50+ million a year company, how do we double that and get to be $100 million a year company? What does that look like? Well, to me, in my mind, it's kind of twofold. It's continuing to build the brand to be bigger.
Yes.
But you do that by putting the right people in the right place, doing the right things.
Yes.
But you can't do any of that unless you know who you are
as a company
and have a plan, to execute on.
Yes.
And, I think that's kind of where we are now, is like, as we continue to, kind of pound the pavement for like the right people that want to be here with us and working in the environment, and that, it's hiring A-level talent.
Yes.
Right.
And you want their buy-in.
Absolutely.
And again, that goes back to that authenticity and the reasons why a person would choose to come work here over, let's say, a company that's doing $800 million a year.
Yeah.
So why choose LCI? And so they come in, they like your vibe, they like that you're consistent in what you're doing, you have a good culture, you have a social impact when you're supporting Misericordia and other philanthropic events in the industry. And so much of that now, and even when you want to work with good people, and so many of your clients probably say the same thing. There are a ton of general contractors that you can hire to build out your lab space or to build out your office space. Yeah. But I like David. David does what he says he's gonna do. LCI, they're doing good things. They're in the marketplace. It feels good to partner with you. And so that's what we all want. We want to leave the situation, and we want it to feel good, and we want it to feel authentic.
Well, and then the back end of that, just what you had just alluded to, is you have to deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on, right?
Every time.
And I think
every time,
by and large, project to project to project, I feel really confident when I talk to a client or potential client about who LCI is and what we do and what our best practices are and what's the process. And I feel really good about telling people at the end of the day, we're going to manage to, the schedule, and here's how we do it. And I'm confident that we can meet that. Yeah.
We're going to deliver.
Yeah.
What we say we're going to do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I think you'd find way more happy clients that we currently work with or have worked with in the past than you would clients that have had a bad experience.
Yes.
I would dare say that.
That's a good position to be in.
Yeah. Yeah. So now it just becomes a matter of how do we continue to grow, really?
Yes.
So how does the Andover Group continue to grow?
So what you're doing when you talk about the podcast and the charitable aspect, I think that's how you're growing, because you're building your brand presence. And so I'm one of those people where I love when a client comes to me with a challenge. I'm terrible about marketing my own company. For me, it's been about building a personal brand. So people know who I am, and they know that I'm genuine, and I tell it like it is.
Sure, yeah.
Sometimes I'm honest to a fault.
Some people can take it and some people can't, Amber.
I'm honest to a fault. I'm going to tell it like it is, but I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And so I've built a personal brand, but I've been terrible about promoting the Andover Group as this entity, because I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on who are my clients in the moment and how can I help them grow. It's almost like the cobbler, his kids run around barefoot. I'm that person.
Right.
So an example of that, I was the folks at Curran Contracting. Okay. So, Curran, Nick and Sarah, they're awesome over there. Love them. And Sarah had come to me and she said, oh, we have this quote to do this 8-page brochure. And, we kind of looked at each other and said, that's a little bit cumbersome. Do people really want a printed 8-page document talking about your company? Yeah. And so
we've done those.
I know we in the past.
We've done the books too, the hardbound, hardcover books, the coffee table books. We've done those too.
I know.
Right? One of those, but it's one of those necessary evil things, right?
But we're
leave behind.
Oh, the leave fine.
Here's a koozie. I got a koozie for you.
But we're moving, so we want to be a bit more creative, and
Yeah.
especially when you're talking about the environmental impact, and you have folks that don't even want paper products in their office. Don't print my emails. Don't do this. I want everything electronic. And so she said, "Oh, I found this small, a brokerage firm, kind of a small little pocket size. A man can fit it in his suit pocket." And I said, "Well, Sarah, just give it to me. Let me just take on this project for you."
Yeah.
So I stripped down a ton of content, and then, there's a certain vernacular within this industry, within the real estate and the construction industry. We kind of write and we talk a certain way.
Sure.
And so I said, let's skip all the garbage. It's too much. We're nosy. We want the basics of what you're doing, and we want to see photos. That's what we want.
Sure.
And so we were able to strip that down, and then it was, how can we differentiate you from everyone knows you as a paving contractor? You've been doing it for years. You do it great for for subdivisions up to the tollway, but you're also doing infrastructure services now. And so you are doing all of the site work and the prep work for GCs and developers. So how do we get that message across?
Right.
And so it's like, we need to make it very clear. We provide infrastructure solutions to our clients. And so we pared this down, and we came up with two really nice smaller version printout leave behind that they can take with them, or they can send as a PDF. And then from there,
which one gets more traction for them? Leave behind or PDF? I'm going to say PDF.
Typically PDF, yeah. And then when you think about it, it's cheaper because you don't have the printing costs. And then kind of how we evolve with that, they have a very active LinkedIn presence. And I love that when I see these firms really just kind of embodying their presence on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we need to come up with a hashtag.
There you go. There you go.
And so she's like, we were going back and forth. And then finally I said, well, how about build on current? Because a lot of the general contractors like to build with LCI. And so I said, let's let people know that they can build on you. Like, they can count on you. You're coming in and you are going to do all of this prep work and get the site ready for the developer or the GC. And so I was tickled pink yesterday when I saw them using hashtag build on current.
Very nice.
LinkedIn. And so to me, that's the fun part of, partnering with firms like that, where they have their own team and they do a great job. But every once in a while, it's okay to outsource and to have some fresh eyes come in and edit the heck out of all this content and pare it down. And I said, if I were your client, this is what I want to know that you do. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of fun. And, hashtag build on current.
I like it. So what's next for Amber?
So, very good question. I feel like I'm kind of in an interesting space. So I have a smaller general contractor that wants to bring me on a retainer basis. Mm-hmm. But in all honesty, I have been kicking around, going back, kind of putting my consulting hat to the side and going back and working for one firm dedicated full time. Yeah. So that might be happening soon.
Oh, hey now.
But
I won't ask who.
No, I'm not going to tell you.
Well, that's why I won't ask.
But I would not be a competitor.
That's fine.
I would actually.
Even if you were, I would still talk to you.
I know you would. There's enough business out there. Actually, there's a few different things that some folks have been reaching out to me about, and it would actually be a great opportunity for me to partner with you or to be a lead resource to you. So you never know. Maybe we'll be able to partner more in the future. So,
I will tell you what, I truly, truly enjoy talking to you and hearing from you.
Thank you, David.
And I appreciate the amount of time that you've invested in the things that we do, because it's hard to find people that want to volunteer time.
Yes.
So thank you for always volunteering your time.
And speaking of that, I would be more than happy to volunteer at the golf outing if you need extra hands.
Well, there's a couple of good ones coming up.
Okay, good.
You got Cornet is coming up.
Oh, yeah.
That's the 19th, and I run the volunteers. So anybody that wants to volunteer for the Cornet Golf Outing, give me a shout. Hey.
I was at that one last year for the afternoon portion, and it was a good one, y'all.
It's nuts. It's huge.
If it's not already sold out, you might want to look up the Cornet outing. That's a good one.
And then the Langehaumer Golf Outing is on September 26th. Also at Cantini.
Okay.
Benefiting Misericordia.
Great charity.
Limited space.
You guys,
left.
limited space. That means reach out to David to secure your foursome today.
We have a limited number of foursomes that are remaining.
Okay.
And, we would love to sell that out.
Yes.
So
sell it out.
Shout out to LinkedIn land and
yes.
Twitter land and Twitterverse and everywhere.
Everywhere that you can
give me a couple more foursomes. Let's sell that bad boy out.
Let's
Should be a great
do
day.
It. So September 26th. And Canteen is a beautiful course.
It is.
So
it is.
good.
The staff there is fantastic. The facility's fantastic.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be a home run for everybody.
And that is another way that you guys authentically build your brand.
It is
by doing the good things for the right reasons, and it feels good for everybody involved. And that's why I've always been such a big proponent of not only donating financial resources but donating time in this industry. And so to whatever charity pulls at your heartstrings, and there's so many for me, so you can kind of spread yourself thin, but it's important. It's important to give back and have a social impact as an individual and as a company.
The other thing I want to touch on with you before we say goodbye is every time I see an industry party or event on LinkedIn or whatever, you always seem to get your picture taken.
I think it's because I have a sparkling personality.
Well, okay, we'll go with that. You and
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z's the other one. I don't know how you guys consistently get in front of the camera to get your picture taken.
It's not me. I'm not hunting down the paparazzi. I swear to you.
It's one of those things where Jeff and I have looked at each other like, she is everywhere, man.
Okay, so
where do you find that time?
Well, Jamie is like my little sister in the industry.
Sure.
I love her. I was friends with her predecessor at ECS. And so when she first started, she kind of looked to me and was like, okay, what are we doing? And I took her under my wing. I was like, we're going to network, girl. Come on.
That's how we do it,
Yeah. And she is just an absolute dynamo. She's a rock star has just propelled herself in the industry.
She's been in for the podcast for Shop Talk, too. So
I watched it. To talk about her exciting opportunity.
Well, listen, I am so happy you came in, and I'm really excited to see what happens with you.
You just never know with me, David.
Wow.
You never know.
Very true, Amber. Very true. But I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome to come back to Shop Talk anytime.
I am
something you want to promote.
Something exciting and new. It is my pleasure to be here and. Yeah, all this fancy equipment.
Well, you know what? Go big or go home, Amber.
Amen. And kudos to LCI for, continuing to build the brand in a great way and keep those orange golf balls flowing, honey.
Always do. Thanks, Amber, for your time.
Thank you. My pleasure. Bye, y'all.